So, we have this one delightful way of thinking about containment, the Truman Doctrine, this idea that wherever communism decides to go, we will be there to prevent it from spreading.
Arnold, please report to the main office.
Samantha Arnold, main office, please. So, we're going to come up with another type of containment, and we're going to call it the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan is a very simple idea. Remember this idea right here. Boop. Satellite nations. I can't even keep that up anymore. Satellite nations, remember that we saw in the early, or I should say the late 1940s, we saw a whole host of countries in Eastern Europe become the satellite nations of the Soviet Union, right? They have to follow Soviet policies. We want to keep the rest of the nations in Europe that were a part of World War II from becoming Soviet satellites. So how can you do that? Well, one of the ways of doing it is helping them rebuild. If we can give them billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, then they're going to become dependent on us. Think of it this way. Your life is a disaster. So you need someone to help you rebuild your life. Now, there are two competing ideas. One of those ideas says, yes, you can rebuild your life with us, but you have to sacrifice your freedom. If you sacrifice your freedom, everyone is guaranteed a better life. Some of you won't have great lives. In fact, most of you won't have great lives, but everyone's guaranteed a better life. That's going to be attractive to a lot of people. On the other side, someone else says, hey, I can help you rebuild your life. Some of you are going to do really, really great. Some of you, you'll do okay. Some of you, you're not really going to do well at all. Right? That's capitalism. Communism is where everyone does a little bit better, but nobody gets to rise really, 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 really high, right? Unless you're in the dictator's favor. Capitalism says you're going to have an upper class, a middle class, and a lower class. Well, those people in the middle and the lower class are going to be really attractive to communism because they're guaranteed at least a reasonable life. America has to convince people that the opportunity that capitalism brings is the best way to go about business. So the Marshall Plan says we're going to give $4 billion in supplies and machinery to Western Europe to help them rebuild their countries. If we give it to Finland and Norway and Sweden and Britain and France and Belgium and the Netherlands and the parts of Germany that the Allies control and Italy and Greece and Turkey, if we give them that money, then they'll look at us as their savior. And instead of becoming Soviet satellite nations, they'll become satellite nations of the West, of America. That's the plan, anyway. So America begins this process of funding large amounts of dollars into Western Europe. And the Soviets look at this and realize that they're going to lose their chance at creating satellite nations, especially when we do something. We, along with Britain and France, decide that this version of a divided Germany no longer is functional or makes sense. We know that we're in a Cold War with the Soviets at this point. We know that it's not going to get better anytime soon. So they're on one side, and we've weakened ourselves by splitting up West Germany. So we say, why not reunite all of those areas in West Germany into one actual new country? So that's what we do. We take the British zone and the French zone and the American zone, we combine them, we call it West Germany. And when the Soviets see this, they realize that they will never get the reparations that they want. So instead of sending in troops to take West Germany over, instead of sending in troops to take over the parts of Berlin that the Allies still control, they build a wall around Allied West Berlin. Remember, West Berlin was controlled by the Allies. West Berlin now belongs to West Germany. And they build this wall around it. And they build the wall around it to keep people in the East from escaping to the West. The concept there is that they are trying to limit Soviet access to democracy. Instead of invading, we intuitively and creatively come up with a different solution. We call it the Berlin Airlift. The goal is to fly supplies into West Berlin and to keep those people safe, secure, and well supplied in the face of that Soviet aggression. This is yet another example of how we're able to contain that attempt at expansion into Berlin so that the West can maintain its democracy there.